Okay, welcome everyone to the IIIF December Community Call. I am sharing our agenda in the chat. If you have just joined, if you could please open that up and sign in at the top of the page, it's helpful for us to know who has attended these calls. If this is your first community call, we have these nearly every month. The community calls are an opportunity for folks from across the IIIF community to connect, to learn about new implementations, to discuss technical issues, or keep up on things that are going on in the consortium. Before I turn it over to Bert and Jules today to talk about the new Allmaps-IIIF partnership, just a little bit of housekeeping. So we have a couple of IIIF events that are worth noting and putting on your calendar. The first is the 2026 online meeting that is happening January 27th through 29th. It is free to attend. Registration for that will open tomorrow. There's lots of workshops this year. I think we have 9, but they are space limited, so you'll want to get in early and get your spot. Also, our in-person meeting is happening June 1st for 4th in the Netherlands. The main conference days will be in Leiden. And you have heard it here first. The call for proposals is open. The official announcement for that will happen right after this meeting, but you've gotten a head start. The link to the CFP and a link to submit is in the agenda today. And just one other note, we still have an open implementation survey. If you haven't taken the implementation survey, it's really brief. It'll take you maybe 5-10 minutes. We're just curious about where the community is in terms of adoption, which version of the APIs you might be using, and if you're not using IIIF, what's stopping you. And a link is in the agenda there. Before I hand it over to Bert and Jules, just a little bit of background for why we're having this call. Last month, the consortium announced some new membership tiers. I'm not going to go into the weeds about how each of those tiers is changing, but there is a link in the agenda to each of them. But one of the new and exciting features that the consortium is offering is an opportunity for folks to add on to their IIIF membership. And one of those add-ons is the Allmaps-IIIF partnership. There's a link to a detailed description of that in here if you need to share it with others, but I'm going to turn it over to Bert Spaan and Jules Schoonman to demo Allmaps and talk about what the IIIF and Allmaps partnership means. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. I will start with sharing my screen. And hopefully I can find my screen. There it is. Share. All right, can people see this? Perfect. All right. Yeah, so we'll use, I think, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to tell you a bit more about the new Allmaps-IIIF partnership. We'll start by telling you what Allmaps actually is. Maybe some of you already know, maybe some of you don't. I will do the introduction, and then Jules will take over and tell you more about the details of the partnership. Yeah, so for people who don't know, Allmaps is an open source project, and it's all about making maps more accessible. And it works with IIIF maps. So any institution that has their collections available through IIIF, we can, with Allmaps, you can take any of these maps and dereference them, and I'll explain what it is later, and make them more visible, accessible, and searchable. Jules and I started Allmaps 4 years, is it 5 years ago almost? It started small and then it grew as things do. And that's why we're very excited to be partnering now with the IIIF consortium and hopefully make even more maps accessible in the future. I think a good way to explain what Allmaps is showing what I gave Jules to his birthday 2 weeks ago. It was his birthday. I'm not going to tell you how old he became. I'm older than he is, by the way, but not by much. I gave him a little flip book that shows maps centered around his house in Rotterdam. And you can flip the flip book and see lots of maps and find out where he lives. And he was very happy with it, right, Jules? There it is. um, so yeah, what do you need to make such a little book? Well, maps, of course, and even better if they're accessible in a standardized way, so we can access them. What we also need is a way to dereference those maps, and then some system that you can use to find these maps by their geographic location. And then finally, if you have these dereference maps and you found a set that you're happy with, it would be great if you can render them to an image, to a PNG, so you can put them in a little PDF or a book. Well, for the first thing that you need, the maps themselves, of course, that's what TRIPLIF does. And there's millions and millions of maps already available from institutions from all over the world. And there's more maps added every day, and more institutions start using TRIPLIF. So there's maps enough. And there's lots of institutions in the Netherlands that have their collections available through TRIPLIF. So there's lots of maps of Rotterdam. Dereferencing these is very easy with Allmaps Editor, which is one of our applications. With Allmaps Editor, you can load any TRIPLIF resource just by pasting the URL, and then you can start dereferencing the map. So first part of the process is selecting the cartographic material of the image. So sometimes, in this case, it's not that very obvious, but sometimes the image contains lots of legends or lots of text around it, which might not be so interesting. So you can select the map from the image and then place contour points. And by doing that, you link the pixel coordinates to geospatial coordinates. And if you do that well enough, you can then overlay the TRIPLIF image onto a map of the world. Allmaps works on top of georeference annotations. So with Allmaps Editor, you can export or look at the web annotation that contains your reference information. Here's another example of it. So it's an official extension to the TRIPLIF presentation API. So it's published on the TRIPLIF website. This is an example of how a georeference annotation what it looks like. It's not much data at all, just contains a pointer to the TRIPLIF resource, and then optionally an SVG polygon with which you select the cartographic material, and then a list of control points, so pairs of pixel coordinates and then geospatial coordinates. And that's enough for Allmaps to take the TRIPLIF image and then render it on top of a map of the world. And lots of people are already using it. This is an example. This is Allmaps latest, which shows the latest maps that have been georeferenced with Allmaps. And you can see, I just took this screenshot an hour ago. It's being used in the wild, and the usage is growing. Then we also need a way to find these maps by the location. So we have an API that you can use to access georeference annotations. And then if you look at the URL in this Chrome screenshot, you can see that I put the spatial location there, and then it returns, in this case, 5 maps around my current location. And we can also, because we have the contour points, we can convert the mask, so the selection of cartographic material, we can convert that to GeoJSON. So we make the cartographic area of the image geospatial by converting it to a geospatial file format. And then you can view this in QGIS or ArcGIS, or in this case, a web-based viewer for GeoJSON. And you can see all the maps of Amsterdam straight from the Allmaps API. This is an application that we released last spring. It's called Allmaps Here, and it shows you maps around your current location. I was finishing the presentation not too far from my house, right there. This building doesn't no longer exists. It burned down, I think, in the 1920s, but they built a new building, and I was in that new building. And then you can send postcards to your friends, telling them where you are right now. The last part is rendering or visualizing these georeference maps. We have a bunch of open source JavaScript modules that you can use to do that. This is a code example of how you can use our canvas renderer. So it renders to an HTML canvas element and then export the resulting image to PNG. And this is what I was using to create the flipbook. So you create a new renderer, you load the reference annotation. In this case, it's from the Allmaps API, but it can come from any web URL. It doesn't necessarily need to be coming from from the Allmaps web server. And then you save it as a PNG file. You can do the same for multiple maps and then create an SVG that you can use for printing purposes. And we also created a small proxy server that takes your reference annotations and turns them into tiles of PNGs with which you can make an XYZ tile layer. So you can view these maps in this case, QGIS, but any GIS or web-based mapping system, really. So what do you need to make such a flipbook? Well, you need all maps, and you can do such things with all maps already. But of course, you can do many other things, and I hope the flipbook example shows you what you can do if you have all these maps available, if it's possible to access any TropIF map and then you reference it, and if you have the open source tools to do things with them. Well, it's now over to Jules to tell you about the new partnership with the TropIF consortium. Oh, I stopped sharing my screen, which I shouldn't have done. I'll go back. Share.
Thank you, Bert. So Allmaps at its core is collaboration between my institution, Delft University of Technology, and Bert as an independent engineer. And it has been, around that is a network of other independent contractors and, of course, institutional partners, library archives, museums mostly. And this project has been sponsored through a series of grants in the sphere of digital library technology or connecting heritage, research infrastructure, and digital humanities. And that's amazing. And we're very happy with that. But we also are concerned with the maintenance of the tool because a lot of those projects, they want something new. And we also need to figure out how to maintain it as more and more institutions and individuals rely on it and rely on the services that we offer. Over the past year, there have been a couple of meetings with those partners to talk about what a potential structure could be to set up a more stable financial structure, governance structure for the future of Allmaps. In a project by the Boston Public Library and the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, which sadly has been terminated. It was NEH funded. There was an idea to set up a consortium for public geography. And of course, this was the idea to have a consortium of institutions that would together commit to a longer term investment in the project. And that idea became connected with using the TropIF consortium as a host for that idea and to think about how the TropIF consortium could operate, could get these institutions together, maybe through the TropIF membership and support the maintenance, but also the further development of Allmaps. One prime concern that we have, and that of course also our partners have, is that we want to keep Allmaps open. It's open source, but also the data is open. So we publish all the georeference annotations with an open license. And we want to make sure that as we formalize Allmaps and think about these models, that you can still use Allmaps as you're used to, and that the data that you generate with Allmaps is openly accessible. And we want to make sure that there's no incentive to change that. At the same time, we need to think about what types of benefits we can offer to institutions that do support Allmaps. And this is how eventually this proposal, this is the website that announces the partnership. I'm sure we'll link it in the document. This document lists a series of benefits. If Bert scrolls a little bit further down. So the model that we came up with is first of all, to keep the core of Allmaps open. So not just the open source applications, we also have packages that you can use and that you can integrate in your own software. And of course, the data that is generated with Allmaps. And then we have two form of new partnerships. And these partnerships are offered as an add-on to the IIIF membership. The main one is the Allmaps supporters. So they do an add-on, a 2,000 per year add-on to the membership, and this helps us to maintain the software. But in return, there will be a set of services that we have catered especially towards institutions. So the idea is that these are things that institutions are especially interested in, and they don't limit necessarily use by individuals, such as researchers or students or patrons. The first thing is that we would like to support, maybe if you can scroll up a little bit, Bert. So I'll just briefly explain what those benefits are. So if you now access Allmaps Editor, there are some collections that are being promoted to georeference. Allmaps supporters will have their collection promoted on this page. If you are an Allmaps supporter, you can also keep track more specifically your maps that have been georeferenced with Allmaps. So we know we will track the maps that are coming from your institution. And we'll give you a good overview and ways to export that data more immediately, and also track which maps have, for example, been georeferenced in the last week or month, etc. We can also offer a custom flow so that you can, for example, add some branding to the Allmaps applications and a backlink to your institutions when you refer to Allmaps from an institutional page. We will offer a component that you can, like a dynamic component that you can use on an institutional interface to link to an Allmaps, for example, for georeferencing or to view a map in the Allmaps viewer. And there is training and support. But this is just an initial list of benefits. This will grow, and this will grow through the work of the Allmaps innovators. That's the second group at the bottom here. And the innovators, they will put in a collective development budget that we will use to develop new apps and features. And one thing that we would really like to focus on is creating an interface for finding maps across institutions. Allmaps here that Bert demonstrated is already a good start of that, but we would like to make that more advanced, and we would like to offer the opportunity to filter for a specific institution. And we would like to work on parsing the metadata better so that you can really see where things are coming from. But also we would like to pick up on the ideas from the NEH project, which was more focused on a tool called Allmaps Curator that would make the georeferencing process, if you do that with groups, more manageable. The idea is that through the work of the innovators, more benefits will become available to Allmaps supporters, and of course also to the world in the sense of the general open tools and applications. So this is something that we've been working on with all our partners and the consortium over the past year, and it's very inspiring to see that the consortium promoting all these open standards can also serve as a hub to think about, to find ways to maintain them together. So we're very enthusiastic about this, and we're very thankful to the consortium for supporting this idea and developing it with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think that was our presentation.
Okay. So links to that document that we just saw there's one in the agenda as a reference. But if folks have questions, I would say first, a lot of clapping, quiet clapping, and I'm speaking right over all of your applause. Feel free to unmute and speak, but if you would rather not and you want to type your question into the chat, I'll read it for you.
Yeah, and I will also share the presentation. I'll put that in the Allmaps Slack and also in the document. I'll probably do that tomorrow.
If there are no questions, I will just flip through the book for the rest of the.
I was giving people a moment in case they're typing.
Sure.
I do think maybe we should add a flip book to the innovator tier.
Bert did make or is making an interface for that, so it will be available.
Okay, not a question, but I'm intrigued and appreciative of the View and All Maps button in our collections interface in the middle tier.
So to clarify a little bit that button, because of course it's easy to make a button, but the idea is that you have a resource in your collection and it has a manifest ID, and you can ask Allmaps, is this manifest, is it georeferenced? And then based on that, based on the answer, you can send you can say to people, hey, this is not yet, this is a map, but it's not yet georeferenced. Maybe you're interested in georeferencing it, and you can open it in Allmaps. And once they are in Allmaps, there can be a little bit of a branding and a backlink to the object page. Then the other thing is, if it's already georeferenced, you can send people directly to Allmaps Viewer, which is also something that you can integrate into your collections interface, but not all institutions have the capacity to do that. So the button can then change and send people directly to the viewer. It can also tell people, hey, maybe you wanna improve this. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's not georeferenced very well, because Allmaps is quite an open system. Everybody can, it's like everybody can open a map and improve the georeferencing. One thing that we would like to work on with the innovators is a way for institutions to tag their versions that they like. So once you have a version that you think that version of this georeference map, we approve, let's say, of that, or we have checked it, that you can tag it and that you can always refer back to that specific version. We already are storing all the history of all the edits, but there's no interface for that yet. So that's something that we would like to work on with the innovators group.
Okay, another question from the chat. Are you aware of any uses of all maps with very early maps that are more difficult to georeference precisely?
Most definitely. yeah, there are many examples of very early maps, but one of the use cases that we really like is that you don't have to transform a map to make it useful. You can, if you look at the Allmaps-IIIF application, it finds map based on a location, but once you open one of those maps, it doesn't distort it. It just shows the map as it has been originally scanned, and it just converts the geodata back to the image. So one thing that you have with very early maps is that their distortion can be very heavy, very intense, so that you cannot read the map anymore. This can still be interesting because you can, for example, analyze the map and analyze the distortion, which is in our modules. But you can also do the reverse and keep the map as it is and actually distort the contemporary data and overlay it on the historical map. So it really depends on what you want to do. But I would definitely say that there's a huge case for working with these maps, also with all maps. The last thing I'll say about this is that this year we've also been working on supporting other map projections. So one thing that you can now do is, lots of digital maps are in WebMarketer projection, but you could actually show a map in another projection that is maybe more closely to the original projection of the map. And you could even use the projection to improve your georeferencing. This will get a bit technical if I say more about it, but these are all things that are catered towards also early modern maps.
Any other questions? Okay, it sounds like no. To wrap up, I'll say if you do have questions or if you share the recording of this with people on your team or at your institution and uh, questions arise, you can always send a message either to Bert and Jules or to the staff at IIIF. The other really excellent resource is that there is a All Maps channel in the IIIF Slack, and not only are the staff and Bert and Jules in there, but lots of people who are actively using all maps and can talk about what they're doing and answer questions. There's a link to join our Slack if you're not already in there at the top of the agenda. Anything else before I let folks go? Okay, well, thank you all, and we will see you in January in the new year for our next meeting.
Thank you all.
Okay, bye, folks.